Hello, I'm Jill Fielding, and this is what's caught my eye in the media this week. First of all, I have to acknowledge International Women's Day. Yay, fantastic, we've got an International Women's Day. And although that's a wonderful thing, I think to myself, why isn't every day an International Women's Day and every day an International Men's Day as well? It's a real shame that we have to have these special one-off days to highlight the plight of a certain category of people. And there are many issues that affect women, and I'm just going to talk about the financial one. Financially, a woman is something like 17% less likely to have a job than a man. If she has a job, she earns on average about £8,000 less per year, and that rises for younger women, goes up to about 15,000 per year differential. Women are much less likely to save and much less likely to invest. For every one woman that makes some kind of investment, there are 3 men, despite the fact that we have fairly strong evidence that women make very good investors. An accumulation of all of those factors, plus all the social and cultural issues that women deal with, means that by the time they retire, their pension pot is 40% less than a male equivalent. Now that gives a woman less choice, less flexibility, and much less of a life, and that's an awful thing. So whilst I hope at some stage in the future we don't need an International Women's Day, let's support it for the time being. Now, I have lots of people talking to me and asking me, what should I do about my investments because of the Ukraine-Russian conflict? And here are my personal thoughts. First of all, with property in the UK, there is no real difference unless you're investing in what I call the oligarch circle, right in the centre of London or in the posh bits like Kensington and Knightsbridge. And most property investors don't really invest in those areas anyway. So for most of us, as long as we stick to the principles of demand and supply and keep to our normal areas, the current conflict has nothing to impact there. With shares, of course, it does, and there's been a worldwide effect and a worldwide drop with some pickup to do in share values to do with the conflict. And of course, if you are heavily invested in Russia or properties, shares, properties and buildings and businesses that are based in Russia, you would have taken one hell of a knock. So what do we do about that? Well, there are 2 approaches to share investing. One is the passive approach and one is the active approach. Now, if you're an active investor, you're monitoring and watching these things all the time, and you can deal with most predictable circumstances. What you won't be able to deal with is the unpredictable circumstances like COVID and the Ukraine-Russia conflict. So for most of us, the mums and dads and normal families around the UK, we'd much rather take a passive approach. And that means you don't spend much time doing it, but you still get access to the fantastic returns that the stock market will bring. On average, the stock market will grow by about 10% per year over the very long term, not every year, not this year necessarily, but over the long term. And I'm certainly very content with that. And I'm content to leave my money in a passive fund. Now, those funds generally are tracker funds, and what that means is that they track a particular stock market, like the UK stock market, like the FTSE, for example. But you can also get those tracker funds that track internationally, so they track the whole world. Now, tracker funds, what they do is they give you the average return from the average market. What you won't get is the super duper highs, but you won't get the super duper lows either. And for most of us, we'd like that equilibrium, that constant and consistency of an average return. I know that's what I would like to do. So tracker funds, general managed investment funds, unit trusts, that kind of thing, I think are better because the risk is spread so thinly that even if you get a real Lulu in there, you'll get something else coming up that covers it effectively. So balance. Now, I've heard this week that HomeTrack have started a new business called Upsticks. And what Upsticks is about is speedy property transactions. And they say that if you put your property details on the internet, they will make you an offer within 48 hours. Now, the offer will be below market value, and they estimate it's going to be about 11% below market value. Now, that won't suit everybody, but it will suit some. Some people who need to move quickly, who need the cash or don't care about the money, particularly people that are going through probate. There's loads and loads of reasons why people would be happy to accept a below market offer. And of course, what Upsticks are going to do, I think, is to hold the properties. Now, at the moment, they've only done a handful, but they're aiming at acquiring £600 million worth of property this year. Now, whether that works or not, what I'd like to say is isn't it fantastic that there are organisations and people that are challenging the absolute nightmare that is a property transaction in the UK, which seems to go on forever, certainly months, and it's fraught with difficulties and back and forwards and queries and all kinds of stuff. And anything that can be done to change that and to transact it in a week would be absolutely fantastic in my eyes. So I don't know whether it'll work. It won't suit everybody, but it's nice to know that there is an option out there that gives you flexibility and choice and means that you can move quickly if you absolutely have to. So let's watch that one and see what happens. Now, one thing that affects properties quite a lot is Japanese knotweed, and it's just saying it sends a shiver down most people's spine. Now, Japanese knotweed is a weed, obviously. It's been in the UK since about 1850, so it's been around for a long time, but it's gained its prominence in the last 40 years-ish because fund providers, mortgage providers have latched onto it and have acknowledged the problems that it can cause. And so mortgages are difficult to get if there's Japanese knotweed present or nearby. Apart from the fact that you can get a certificate, you can get it cleared and you can get a certificate. And I encountered Japanese knotweed about 10, 15 years ago. It wasn't on the property I was trying to sell, but it was just outside the boundary and we had to have it cleared. And then, do you know what? I got a special certificate. I got a magic certificate that says this is knotweed free. And suddenly I realized that that was a USP, a special bonus selling point when I was trying to sell the property. Because if you're a buyer and you see two similar properties and one's got a knotweed free certificate and the other one hasn't, you go with the knotweed free one. So actually, I gained some positive out of that. But we've now got a different positive, which is there's an organisation that started in America called Eat the Invaders. And they're suggesting that we could actually eat the Japanese knotweed. Apparently it's got quite a fruity flavour and makes a nice jam, if you're into that sort of thing. You have to be careful when you're cooking it because even the bits you're discarding have to be cooked and disposed of properly in case it spreads. But that's a nice alternative to the problem of Japanese knotweed. Have a bit of knotweed on toast. And I hope you enjoy that. Well, keep safe. Have a great week. I'll see you next time.